you haven't pushed your bodies to physical limits, you try and go up against me in business, I'll destroy you.
Dwayne started his gym at the age of 22. Training Day is a name. Tell me about the time where The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, on his Instagram, shared about your gym.
You know, I guess we manipulated The Rock into making a post on his Instagram about us.
Why did you start a gym?
You tell me one person that reads and trains their body that is not successful. It's a physical reminder that you got to push hard every day. That's it.
What do we need to know about your upbringing, your background, your context?
So I grew up here with my dad, who I have a pretty horrible relationship with. I would like to say that I never really had a dad growing up.
If I was a fly on the wall, help me understand what I would have seen.
If you're a fly on the wall, I said something like, I miss my mum, and says, forget about your mum now, she's gone, I'm all you have. I actually said to her on the phone, I said, I don't know how to live now. My mum said, you should live out of love and just live for your love for me. My mum wrote me one letter one day. Like, that letter has saved me. I think all my motivation was from that. And the letter said something like,
So Wayne, I met you many, many years ago. We were neighbors, actually. Since then, you've grown a lot. You've built a business.
Well, it has been 10 years, right?
Has been 10 years. You've grown a great business in the fitness industry, and which I really want to get into, by the way. But for the audience who does not know you like I do, what do we need to know about your upbringing, your background, your context for us to really understand who you are today?
So I first came to Australia when I was 6 or 7, grade 1 or 2. I was in Sydney, first time I came here. So I grew up here with my dad, who I have a pretty horrible relationship with, who I still don't, the last time I saw him was more than a decade ago. Actually, I haven't seen the guy for more than a decade. And I think to the point where I think I must have walked past him in a shopping center once and he never recognized me.
Wow.
So that was the last time that I saw him. And there's a reason for that. You know, I'm not claiming that I'm a ball of wisdom or anything. I'm not claiming that I've just faced all challenges in life. All I'm saying is there's a reason why I don't have that relationship with him. So I would like to say that I never really had a dad growing up. And up until I was an adult, so when you met me, I've got to where I am. Nobody's self-made, really, right? Because you have people to help you. But I've got to where I am with very minimal support, with very little, just not even, I'm not talking support like somebody gave me $1 million or somebody, it's not that, it's more so just even the verbal support from your family. My mom's overseas, which she probably speaks 2 words of English, she doesn't even know. I have to show her around in my country. So it's been like that since I was 6 years old.
If I was a fly on the wall in your household, and I guess before you were 18, so in that whole period since you came to Australia and you're living with dad, help me understand what I would have seen.
If you're a fly on the wall, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, because I never experienced much joy during that period. A lot of pain. Let me know when you want me to get onto that, but there is so much of it that I can dig into. But to answer that original question is that I never had a Christmas present. I never had, my dad's never bought me a birthday present. My dad wasn't at my primary school graduation, let alone high school or university. I never had a fun moment with my dad. And I have a really good mum who's overseas, that single mum, and who suffered the same fate because of, the man that my dad was, who tried to raise me over the phone as much as she could in a country that she doesn't understand, by providing just support. And long story short, because there was a bit of back and forth, but on the plane, he pretty much, I think I said something like, I miss my mum. It says, forget about your mom now, she's gone, I'm all you have. That's my first memory of my dad. And then took me to Australia and said, we're going on a holiday. I was meant to be here for a holiday. I was never told because I was going to lose my shit as much as a kid as I could lose.
Yeah.
Taking me away from my mum with the devil over here, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm being bullied at school. And I remember and I'm too scared to tell I'm scared of my dad. And I'm too scared to tell him. And there's one day, I think he figured out something was wrong. By the way, as a kid, I never liked milk, couldn't drink milk. That was my breakfast. You don't like something, you need more of it, not less, right? I like that concept now. As a 5-year-old kid, hey, that's not fun. So I wouldn't eat and I would just starve myself and just, you know, your little kid just pretty much just wasting away. And I think it's one day at breakfast, he said to me, is everything okay at school? I said, yeah. And this is 5.
This is the incident you're referring
6.
to.
This is the incident I'm referring to. 6 years old. And then he says, son, if you're getting like bullied at school, you can tell me. Oh, hearing that was like the first moment of joy I had, hearing that. And I was still so scared to say anything. So I was like, okay. Every day I went to school, I didn't have a good day, right? Eventually I said, I'm going to tell my dad about this. So I come home and I remember he took me courage to tell him. I said, hey, you told me that to tell you I've been bullied at school. Don't remember what the hell that I said that moment or what I did to piss him off. He said to me, you were bullied? How did they bully you? Oh, they beat me up, they kicked me in the stomach and I'm down. Okay, son, come with me to the bedroom. Takes me to the bedroom. He goes, tell me how he bullied you. He says I said he kicked me with his heel in my gut and it hurts. And he goes to me, is it like this? He does it. He kicks me in my gut like the kid did.
Wow.
And I'm on the ground. He says, what was happened? And I don't remember whether it was the first time or the second or third time he's doing this. But I remember there was one time that my uncle opened the door and sees my dad doing this. Yeah. And then he said, you can't do this.
Yeah.
This is Australia. You can't do this. What's happening here? Yeah. I'm sad. I'm not sleeping every day. I don't want to go to school. And my mom wrote me one letter one day. For those that know me, if they happen to be listening to the podcast, I have a tattoo all across me, from my chest all the way to my arm. That is the cover of the letter that she wrote me. People always ask me, why is it a little fishing guy, a little kid on a boat? It's because my mom said that kid reminded her of me on the other side of the ocean. And the letter said something like, son, you were growing up to a man. I was 5, right? It says, no, it's hard. I don't get emotional on many things. But this one thing, like I tattooed on my chest. Have your chest up high and your mum always has faith in you. So that's the actual tattoo, which I said, the pain I feel today is the strength I feel tomorrow. That pain that I had that night, I held that letter and I think I remember vividly, I remember so clearly my stepmom getting ready for work at 5 a.m. I didn't sleep a wink. I was 5 or 6. Like that letter has saved me, like legit. I think all my motivation was from that. And it was like, I gotta live for my mom. Like I gotta get out of this. So everything that I've accomplished, I feel like afterwards, was all from that. I reckon that kept me going till I was 18.
Wow.
And something else took over after that. People ask, why don't you just leave a phone number so you can write to him? She did leave a phone number in there. I didn't find out until I was 18 that my dad took the number out.
Wow.
So my stepmom did. So I could never contact her. So when I was then back to China, all I wanted to do was tell my mom that I'm back. I wasn't allowed to. My grandma wouldn't let me touch the phone. Long story short, one day my mom called my grandma. Now they have no connection, right? Because it's your ex-husband's mom. My mom called my grandma to say hello and say how she's going. Guess who picked up the phone? Right? And then she knew, who's this? I'm your son.
Did you know it was your mum?
I just manifested. I just said, please, mum, call one day. I was standing by the phone hoping that she'd call one day, and she did.
Yeah.
And I picked up the phone. She called off work, took a taxi. And I remember the whole taxi ride, I couldn't say the word mum because I told myself that I would never call my stepmom or anybody mum because my real one is here. And I haven't said that word for so long, I couldn't say it.
Yeah.
And then that feeling of just like, I almost felt like I was saved. You know, that was, I don't know I can't remember how old I was. But this was a little bit of an idea of during that period of how she was raising me. I don't think she tried, but it's just the love the natural love of a mum. It's just, it could save you at a time like that.
Yeah.
While my dad was oblivious to all of these feelings that I was having.
I heard a story recently, actually, of two twin brothers who came to Australia from Afghanistan. Hugely traumatic background, family gotten blown up, like crazy stuff.
That's next level shit, man.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not comparing anything, but like that was their experience. One kid is struggling hugely with depression, mental health issues, can't assimilate into society. The other twin brother, thriving, doing great. It's always intrigued me because Tim Grover, the trainer of Kobe, right?
Oh, yes.
Kobe, MJ,
From,
right?
After watched The Last Dance, yeah.
Yeah, right. So Tim Grover says, you know, you ask a successful person why they're successful. Chances are they say, because my childhood sucked and I wanted revenge, I wanted this, I wanted that, or whatever.
The saying, what is it? The alcoholic dad had two sons. One successful one says, or failure says, alcoholic father, the successful said the same thing, right? Yeah.
So for you, and if you try to look back on your journey, how did you consciously or unconsciously turn all of those experiences into positive drive?
It really depends on what you mean by positive. I feel like my greatest accomplishment to date was that day on the yard of my high school, my first fight that I got into, where I beat the living crap out of the other kid. And that I felt like was my greatest accomplishment because I was so scared. It's not just scared, but not able to confront it and what do you call, like even accept it. So I remember even in primary school in grade 6, and they were asking who your hero was. I felt obliged to write my dad. You know, because you growing up in Asia, you weren't even allowed to, before I discovered Eminem's music, along with my mum's love letters, raised me. Yeah. Until that point, I didn't know you were allowed to hate your parents.
Yeah.
So getting to that point, it was just fear.
Yeah.
And then it was actually that moment where I was, you know, in another confrontation. Now I'm feeling, okay, I was scared. Like if I get home and I get beat up again, that's going to kill me. So I fought out of fear, and I was scared every fight that I got into. And in my high school, I've never lost a fight. I don't care how big they were, because you know what they say, it's the size of the fight in the dog, right? Not the size of the dog in the fight. Yeah. So I had nothing to lose. Yeah. So I was swinging, and then I remember I beat the crap out of him. This guy was in his fetal position, and the reason why is because I was so scared that he was going to get up and he was going to hit me. And that's scary because you can kill somebody like that. That's literally how kids make mistakes, out of fear. And can you imagine, I was thinking I wasn't thinking, you know, what I was doing. But that moment when I realized, you know, I actually fought back and people looked at me, and at that time I was a victim. But after that, moments after, everyone in the schoolyard was like, that's a guy you don't want to fuck with. And this time my dad came and picked me up. It was the first time I went, hold on, what happened? You beat somebody up and he didn't hit me. Yeah. And for me, that was like, oh, reward. Yeah, and then I realized this is what you have to do here to survive.
But I'm intrigued because that could be such a slippery slope for a young man.
Yes.
To go down that route of going, oh, I beat people up, I get rewarded for it.
That was what happened. See, this is saying that I was raised on the streets, because this is what people don't tell. This is what parents wouldn't tell you, because there was no way that I was going to get out of that, because self-pity isn't going to save you. You know?
How did you know that and not go down self-pity?
Well, I did. It was self-pity that got me there. Yeah. But the fear of having to beat up by this kid and then go home, because everybody gets to a cracking point, right? And that reached my point. So at that point where the only thing I was ever good at or rewarded for was to be a thug and beat people up. Not out of joy, but out of fear. So, and when I did that, all the amount of respect that I got. But I have to emphasize that you don't just go from victim to that. No, there is a long fighting period. And that fighting period went from just as long. It went from, you know, you can't give the perception of, oh yeah, he hit somebody and now he's conquered it. No, you don't do that. You do it until, you do it until he's no longer scary. But just because I did that, it doesn't make the next guy that I beat up less scared. Like I still have to stand toe to toe with these people that were bigger than me that just happened to be, you know, seem more confident than me. But that went on until it starts to feel not right until I was about 17, when I think a kid came up to me and just said, hey, Wayne, this guy said he's stronger than you should beat him up. And then I started to feel like that I was being used, not used, but seen as somebody that they didn't respect me for who I was, but they feared me. But it's actually a funny feeling because I feared them, but they feared me, right? And it felt good, but then it wears a little bit, you know how, you know, but you have to then get that confidence first. That took between, I think, when I was 12 to 16 to get. It took about 4 years of day-to-day fighting to really, for me not to be scared about it anymore. And then I remember telling that kid, I said, don't use me as your, you know, that confidence came. That's where the swagger and the confidence, he goes, I'm somebody now. Like, don't use that. And then I started to realize that I have a responsibility to protect other kids from being bullied. I remember this kid that used to, a lot of shit goes on in public. I didn't go to Glen Waverley, man. Like I went to, my inter-score was 30 something and that was good. And it was a kid that they used to wrap him up in toilet paper in the toilet and piss on him and make him lick the toilet seat. Like that sort of shit, like people don't know it goes on. It went on in my school in my days. And I felt like that was me. That was just me. That was me 10 years ago when I was 16. So I went and I took this kid and I said, who did this? And I walked by myself. I walked up to this bully's up and down the end of the school. I said, who is it? I remember this bully looking at me on his knees going, Wayne, please don't beat me out. I felt like a god. I felt like a god walking around the school. And I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Like I would never let another kid be bullied in my supervision. And the teachers had this, you know, I had this just for a good solid 2 years. I was like the anti-bully, but I couldn't do it without, you know, you had to, what is that training they're saying? Denzel, you had to be a wolf to catch the wolf, right? So I was that. And then I was walking around the school just being the vigilante. But that's when, so that's, you know, transition then started to, you realize you have the power, but you got to be empowered first. You got to get that power and then you use it and you realize I'm really powerful and celebrate yourself and you look, what have I become? Right? You could still see when you met me, even though that was finished, you could still see the leftover residuals off of that, you know, the gangster sort of.
But it was like the good parts though.
Right. So getting to that, it's the mixture of two things, I believe. But I really didn't want to emphasize this fighting bit because I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for those struggles where I actually, you know, that was so liberating for me. But it was when I had that confidence and it was a mixture of my ex-girlfriend, so my girlfriend at the time, Usana's people actually at the time had a lot to do with it. I'll explain, but also the paradigm shift that my mom was able to tell me. So on my 18th birthday, I wrote an essay. It's funny, my year 12 project was to write an essay. My essay was my 18th birthday. And my teacher was like in shock, like, you wrote this? I'm like, well, no, I didn't write this. It happened. It's just a diary. So what happened was, I think it was my birthday, celebrating my birthday, whatever. Like my uncle, you know, says, you know, to my dad, you should take him out. So we were having his dinner and then, my dad said something. My dad said, you've been listening to Eminem? I know what he says in his songs. I'm going to take all your CDs. Something along the lines of that. You imagine what I would do to this guy? Like, that's the thing that raised me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember this is a Chinese restaurant. And he's never seen me react like that. There was this rice pot. I stood up so aggressively. The rice pot it was that restaurant on Broad Highway. What's that one? Near the playground. It's changed now, but whatever that was. I can't remember. I remember that restaurant. Stood up, pushed that rice thing and said, I just raised my hand like I'm about to belt the living shit out of this man. And he had this fear in his eyes, like I'm the boss now. You know, and then I realized I'm the fucking man of the house now. And this is not good, right? And my mum heard about this. And my dad called my mum, and said, your son, as a victim, you beat me up all my childhood. Called my mum as a victim, his was, your son tried to hit me. Mum told me this. Your dad called me and said, my son tried to hit you. And so she tried to, you know, she said, look, no good. And I was 18, I was going on a pretty questionable path at that time. So she said, listen, there's something about your dad that you should probably know, that he was adopted kid himself and he had a troubled upbringing. And the thing is, like, he knows this, but your grandparents who adopted it don't even know that he knows. And he's kept this secret for like a good solid 40 years. And they won't tell him, they won't tell him, and for whatever the hell that was going on. So I didn't feel that sorry for him, but I did realize that, okay, it was that aha moment, right? Where everybody has a story to tell, you know? And I realized, okay, I got to be the better human. And there was a lot of my mum's love and support. And I actually said to her on the phone, I said, I don't know how to live now. I can't, so you're telling me not to hate him? Yeah. This is the reason why I do everything. Yeah. You told me to go to school. I do it because I want to be better than him. I go to the gym because I want to beat him up. What am I supposed to do now? Yeah. So my mum said, you should live out of love and just live for your love for me. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, you know, but I was trying my hardest, like, I'm trying to live out of love, like just live for good things. And you just try to just try and think of the world as it's people trying to be good to you. And then I found my first girlfriend at the time who was the family was really lovely to me, who took me, like I obviously didn't want to live with my dad. So I was 17 and I pretty much moved out of home. And I lived at my ex-girlfriend's house for a solid year and a half. And the family cooked for me and treated me like, oh, so how come other people's dad are not bad? Like, okay, right, so people are generally good, right? So then I opened up to that. It was a combination of all of these things, but it was a daily battle for me as well to just try to be good. And there is, you know, you're a man of God. Like I wasn't even delivered. I wasn't even introduced to religion. You know, this is the thing. I remember the first person said, introduced Christianity to me. I was actually pissed at this person. I just said, don't take away my credit. Yeah. You know, I said, nobody ever told me this when I needed it. Now you're telling me that I should know. I won my battles. And I remember thinking that. But there has to be an element of grace. Yeah. You know, like you're walking down the street and you just feel a good breeze hitting you. Like, what did you do to deserve that, right? So I used to believe that I make my own luck, but no, like there are people that will probably go through, you know, struggles and don't have that ability to turn good. But I don't know what happened during that period. I was able to just use as whatever I had for a good cause. But I think my mum was not probably, but definitely the majority of it. Yeah. My ex-girlfriend and their family was a huge part of it because they showed me you live out of love.
I think a huge part of your story, Wayne, and you sharing that story, it does help people in a similar way that your mum and your ex-girlfriend's family would. I think sometimes people in that situation just need to hear a story of someone else that's been through, you know, a similar journey and they've come out on top. They've gone through that journey of needing to empower themselves, you know, through physical strength to a point where, hey, that doesn't have to be my identity anymore. It could be, I could be a force for good as well. So I think that's going to be super powerful for a lot of people. Fast forward, you've used a lot of that energy, you got into the world of entrepreneurship, and then you eventually started Training Day, your gym. That's been very successful. How did that start? Why did you start a gym?
People are so funny, like you go to news agencies, people used to steal magazines. I remember growing up, got a certain news agency, they steal like car magazines or like, you know, the for men's magazines, like crap like that. But I was stealing bodybuilding magazines. Yeah. Like I was putting those under my shirt and be like, whoa, like, you know, how jacked this guy is. Like if I just look like that, nobody want to fuck with me. Like that was my mindset. And then I think I picked up a couple dumbbells. It was my dad's woman at the time, one of them had, and then I picked them up and I just started doing curls with them, and then I was like, this feels good, you know. And then it didn't take long for when you were 12 or 10 for you to actually see some results. And then and I got recognized for it because nobody in school could beat me in arm wrestle, and it's easy when you train when you're 12 and they don't, most of them don't. So then I realized that was my anchor, and then I started trying to make my own gym equipment at home. Use the closet doors. I was trying to do random things, and plus I enjoyed basketball at the time. So that's sort of all linked in. And I look at Michael Jordan and I was like, oh, you know, he's pretty ripped, so he probably trains. So that was how this started up. This sparked, and then you go to the gym and you realize I was the youngest. No, I think you had to be 14 to go to the gym. Yeah, I should know, right? I think in our contract it says 14 or something. But yeah, I was that for. They had asked how old you were. So in my big triple XL white t-shirt, like we wore that before it was cool. You know what I mean? So in my Wu-Tang, like, you know, and the whole get up, and I'm in Fitness First. I was 16 bench pressing 100 for reps, and I got these 18-year-olds who picked me up. I mean, they had loud cars. When I was 16, they picked me up from the front of my school. I wasn't a cool kid growing up, man. Like, I haven't been kicked around. I go into his car. You know, I said, hey man, can we train together? I was like, well, I don't have a car. I'll pick you up from school. All right. I did have this Ford Falcon with a loud ass exhaust on his chrome wheels.
Chrome wheels.
Felt so cool.
I remember the chrome wheels.
The gym. And then, I mean, I was bench pressing more than everybody. I was 16. So that gave me, and then the thing about gym is just, it's such a metaphor for life. Like, you know, you can only do 5 kilos a day, do it for a week. And then next week, come back and do 6. So everybody has a need for certainty and significance, and the gym was the perfect outlet for a young male in that situation. So, and with that more emotional, you know, baggage going on at the time, and I realized, wow, like, you know, I remember breaking my arm in different pieces in high school, and then from playing sport, and I had one arm in a cast, neck brace. I went to the gym to spot people. Oh man, I have so many stories.
Can I ask, for somebody that is not traditionally like a gym person, or doesn't see themselves as a gym person, why should they go to the gym anyway? What other sort of benefits, if I don't want to necessarily have big muscles or be super fit, what are some mental lessons that I can learn?
Look, the secret to success, what a lot of people give it to, not mine, okay, is the ability to prepare yourself to do difficult tasks, right? Or at least partially responsible for that, right? And there's no better way to prepare yourself to handle difficult tasks or situations than putting yourself physically in that situations every day. That's it. You go and get under a barbell to squat 100 kilos for reps to the point where you can't stand up. It's a physical reminder that you got to push hard every day. That's it. And to be able to do this every day, I will outwork anyone that hasn't done this, that doesn't know this feeling. Like, I'm that confident. Like, you haven't pushed your bodies to physical limits. You try and go up against me in business, I'll destroy you. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I do every day, is to push that mental and physical barrier. So if you aren't doing that, it's just like an intellectual person that you're asking them, like, why you should read. How do you know what your limit is if you don't push it? And how do you have that need to challenge yourself if you don't constantly push yourself, right? So, and the good thing about the whole gym thing is, like, what is gravity? Because the weight isn't subjective, right? It's just, it's the weight. So they're not going to lie to you. It's not going to, you're either stronger or you're not. So that is a good humble pill as well when things aren't going well.
I know a lot of people that go to the gym and work out, and I think you don't have to push yourself to an extreme limit to see results from the gym either. You know, you work out lightly, whatever, you'll see results. And I think it is a place that a lot of people go now for instant gratification, where it's like, I put in a bit of work, I look a bit better or whatever, right? And I don't think many people get to that point where they're working out mentally. I think most of them are just working out physically, and they're getting a certain amount of physical.
I think there's a degree though, isn't it? It's just the degree of, I guess you don't, I mean, picking up anything, I guess, is not easy. So it's just that they have.
Totally. There is a degree
there's some
to
sort
that.
of mental benefits. You can't have nothing.
But when you push yourself to the point of like, like that mental workout, which I think eventually led to you starting a gym and being comfortable with that. You've never started a gym before you started a gym. I remember seeing photos of you literally going in and demolishing walls and things like that. Like you had no idea that this was going to work out logically, but you had the mental strength to go, well, you know what? I believe in myself. I'm going to place my bets on myself. I know who I am. And you had the evidence of that through pushing physical weight. And I think a lot of people who just go to the gym and work out physically, they're losing out on that, which I think it's awesome that Training Day is a brand where you're pushing not just the physical weights, but the mental weights as well.
Well, it's funny, our slogan, I actually thought long and hard about this, which is I didn't have a slogan until I think like 7th or 8th year into business, and the slogan was strong by choice.
Yeah. So you got two things. You got strong physical strength, but also choice, which is mental strength.
And also saying that it's that simple. It's a choice. So we're not alienating for being weak, because everybody was weak on one stage. So all I was saying, it's anybody can choose this. So to answer your question, yes, but here's the thing, right? Like, there's an industry thing where we always tell, our trainers I'm obviously very passionate about this, and I've gotten people probably looking at me like, oh, he doesn't look like he lifts anymore. I guess compared to some of the people that in and out and still living in there, but I got into so many different types of training. Like even up until COVID, I was competing in like Olympic weightlifting at a national level, and then about my dunk journey. So I just love pushing my body to physical limits. Like doesn't matter what it is, right? So people in our industry are all like this. And that can be quite intimidating to newer people. Just like I got to eat this, I got to do. I can't even get off the couch. So what I always tell people is like, look, you don't got to do all of that. Nobody started with all of that. So as long as you just, even if you just go sit on the gym couch for a couple of hours, that habit of doing that, but before you know it, 10 years later, you're doing something else. So I think you are right if you don't reflect, right? On these lessons that you're learning. And I'm one of those people that try to, I say that, I'm 33 years old. There's another person at 33 years old, right? And then you can say that some people are successful at 33, some people are not. I don't have more life experience. We live the same amount of years. So the only way that you can get ahead, if that's possible at all, is to reflect on more lessons. So if you are able to reflect on every single rep that you do or everything that you do, you're able to get further. So I'd say so, yeah. So if somebody was able to actually acknowledge, the benefits that it gives mentally, but I think most people go to the gym, maybe not most, but a large amount of them do recognize a lot of it is mental as well.
Tell me about the time where The Rock, Dwayne Johnson,
Rock story.
The Rock, on his Instagram, shared about your gym.
Yeah. I guess we manipulated The Rock into making a post on his Instagram about us. Not me personally, like the artist Danielle. She's a prime example of like, you could be anything. Like she was just drawing The Rock paintings. Yeah. And long story short, The Rock got to her and she's met The Rock on set of the movie with Kevin Hart and she's bloody friends with her. She's been to Arnie's house to paint for them. It's just, I'm like, what? Yeah. How did that even happen, right? So she painted a bunch of stuff. So we painted Thor, we painted Michael Jordan. Imagine if MJ. And we wanted to paint a female figure. Yeah. So we painted Gal Gadot. Yeah. Wonder Woman on one of my gyms. Very big wall. Yeah. And it's funny because even at the time, Danielle was already saying, hey, we should probably paint one at The Rock. I haven't painted one this big. Yeah. And I was just like, I didn't want to do the cleat. I was like, hey, I don't want to. Because you know what I mean? People try and milk that for him to just recognize. Yeah. So we painted Gal Gadot instead. And I think The Rock was in a movie with her or something. And then The Rock, after a couple of weeks, messaged Danielle directly on Instagram and said, hey, I saw that painting that you did of Gal Gadot. What the hell, right? Yeah. And then kind of like, and then immediately she called me. She was like, hey, we've got to do The Rock. So why? You know, it kind of feels like, I think he's asking where is his.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I was like, you know, I was still relaxed. I was like, all right, whatever. Like we do one, okay, just put it on this corner on the new gym. She's like, no, you can't put the rock. You got to give him a whole wall. Yeah. All right, okay. So we painted him, and whatever happens, and then nothing. You didn't do nothing. I was like, yeah, I told you this is not going to happen. And then I think another couple of weeks after, she messages him asking all these questions. What is this? You know, where did you paint it? Where is the gym? Asking about the gym as well. Like, all these different questions. And then it was a Friday night. And she was like, so the conversation ended on that. This is awesome. You got a video, yes? Yes. She didn't. And then says, give me a 60-second asset that I can post, his words. Wow. And then she called, we need a 60-second asset. Do you have it? No. But you already painted it. Yes. What do we do? So we painted another one. We repainted the whole damn thing just to film that content. Wow. And then, you know, my video guy at the time, it was our employee at the time. And then, you know, I was like, you better film it. He was like, can I put my logo? I was like, no, you're not putting your logo on the Rock's promotional video. So we made a 60-second video for him. Yeah. And then obviously it's mainly for Danielle, like the artist, but we tried our best to put as much, you know, of the gym as we could. Yeah. This was 2018, October. And that's it. And send it off and just hope for the best. And I think because the file was so damn large, it was actually funny because the Rock's trying to download it. And it was just, how do you download this? It was quite funny to have, I didn't have this interaction, but just being a part of that, you know? And then, okay, he got the thing and then nothing again. Yeah. But then a month later, like he posted on his page, Danielle never told him what gym that was. Wow. So he tagged us and had a few things to say about it. Yeah, he did. So he would have obviously looked it up. And then he saw, I can't even, it was like training days, like, hope everybody that walks through your doors, you know, it was something really nice. He had a few lines about it. And then I think, look, he didn't, in terms of, oh, he must have got a lot of business. No, we didn't get any, I mean, you don't get business from this sort of stuff. And we're a location-based business. So if I was selling shit, I think I would have, you know, been better. But it was more so what he did for the, you know, the culture. And like, I just remember because everybody follows the Rock from the gym environment. I remember reading those comments. Yeah. It's just everybody, that's my gym, that's my gym, that's my gym. It was just all the members going, oh my God, it was so cool for them. Yeah. To just, I feel so cool to just be able to facilitate that, like, like this is cool, right? Yeah. So that was, okay. And that was a good year for me. It was 2018. It was, you know, new Clayton gym was opening at the time. And yeah, man. And then the Rock did this. I was like, man, this is so cool, man. How did we even manipulate him in any way to doing this? Like, not that we tried. It was all just genuine. And hopefully he did it. He did. So I have all the good things to say about the Rock. Never asked anything. Yeah. Just did it out of his own will. Yeah. Wow.
So you guys have grown quite a bit over the past few years. What are some key business principles that you would give a young, aspiring guy with no experience but just has this dream and belief in himself to start a business, whether a gym or anything else?
This is, man, like one of the, I dig these questions all the time, and I was always thinking, somebody asked me this question, how am I supposed to answer it? Because again, people have no context, right? And I have no context of who's listening to this. Yeah. So it's really hard to answer that. Like I'm looking for this answer. Yeah. You know, I'm looking for other people. What is the one secret to business or to success?
There isn't one.
No, and then there is even if there is, it's different to everybody, right? Yeah. If I knew what I know now, there is no way I would have bought that piece of shit squash court back when I was 22, 23. I didn't know how to read the balance sheet, didn't know how to read profit or loss. The rent was more than the total revenue of the business. There's a reason why they were selling that piece of junk. I didn't care, man. I just had this idealistic point of view that I couldn't afford anything else. When you're renting through these huge places, nobody's going to rent to a 22-year-old kid with no business experience. Like you're signing a 10-year lease. Yeah. And I had no bond. I had no nothing. So that was just the only thing that I could afford. And it happened to be in a suburb that I was beat up in. So I just thought this is a good sign. Yeah. But if I knew what I knew now, there is not, like I'm saying this, there's not a chance. Not a chance I'd do it. You can't wait until you've just figured everything out. Yeah. It just won't happen. So that's what it was like for me. And I genuinely think, oh, wow, imagine if I knew what I knew now, how quickly would I have done it? But then also, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have done it.
But you wouldn't have known. And I think that's such good advice, because a lot of people are scared of the unknown, whereas
trying to figure everything out.
But the thing is, you just jump in. You just jump in and you
now,
figure it out.
I barely slept. Like, last night is the first night that I slept in two weeks properly.
Yeah.
Because I was just worried about, I got this new thing, especially when I got somebody else's money. I'm just, it's that responsibility of, and I'm going to have to go and ask more, because this guy just told me this isn't going well and it's going to be a lot more than I budgeted for. And it was just, still now, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And if I waited until everything's finished, man, I would have lost this opportunity. So ever since, I think everybody that does business knows this, so that you're always taking an element of risk. And that's what it is. It's a part of your success, because you take that risk. But there's another end where you go, don't be stupid and obviously do your stuff. But there is always going to be that element of, I don't know. So summarize, have some balls. Yeah. You've got to do it, man. You've at least have the balls to fail, Yeah. And that's what I would say. Yeah. A lot of people are just scared of that embarrassment. So regardless, they're going to laugh at you. Even with my staff, when we give people responsibilities, I tell them, I always say, look, I'm not giving you an opportunity to succeed. I'm giving you an opportunity to fail. Because you haven't failed before. Yeah. You haven't taken on responsibility and actually failed, and having to come up to me and be like, I fucked this up. That's a part of, taking risks. So I think that's probably the thing that I would say.
And failure is very character revealing too. It reveals to yourself how you fail. Yeah. If I was to interview people from your team and ask them, how is Wayne as a leader, what would they say?
I think you'll get different answers from different people. And I think throughout the whole, decade or more that I've been in business now, you'd hear different, different sayings. What they say about me in the past 6 months will be different to what they say about me, 5 years ago. And COVID has changed a lot of that. Yeah. I matured a lot. But overall, I think they'd say that, I'm very idealistic. I'm very inspirational, motivational. I feel funny saying it's like I'm patting myself in the back, but I feel like they love me speaking. We do a conference every year, and then I always do a little section where you can call it a TED talk, but also a practical advice on growth. Yeah. And I always feel weird doing it, because, I don't want to give unsolicited advice, but people always Wayne, we enjoy that part. Yeah. So I think most people say that I'm, mature or have a lot of knowledge to share, I guess. Yeah. I think it's also because most of them are younger than me. It's funny, me being 33 and where I'm in a young industry, I feel like a kid, because most people that work for me are, in their 20s. Yeah. So I think that's probably what they would say. Wow.
Well, Wayne, we have a tradition to end this podcast, and this is the official journal. Yeah. And I ask every guest that comes on the podcast to write down their one piece of advice. And obviously it's completely impossible to put down everything you want to say with context onto words on a piece of paper. Yeah. So I'll try and give as much context as possible. But my previous guest said this. This is what he would say to his younger self if he had the chance. Don't be afraid. Face your life and what might come. I feel like you've already done that. Build relationships, treasure relationships, and build up other people.
So for me, I think one of my biggest weaknesses is not building enough relationships, or at least having enough empathy for other people, because I'm so comfortable in my own skin in a way that I can be quite insensitive. So I have probably unintentionally ruined some relationships in the past. And the thing is, you don't know where those relationships could have led, right? So I would say that is definitely an advice that I would take just now. I can imagine me giving myself advice when I'm a little bit older, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I heard in a podcast recently that data wins arguments. And I heard that and I said, I don't agree with that. I think data and knowledge wins debates, because debates are not personal. But arguments, you need empathy and humility to win, because it's about connecting with the other person.
Yeah, because nobody wants to lose.
Well,
right?
With an argument, you have to try and understand the other person's point of view.
That's right. So I'm agreeing with you in that way, because they're not going to lose. So with empathy, it's that understand before to be understood.
Yeah. Well, Wayne, thanks for coming. It's been a huge pleasure, and I think your story is really going to inspire a lot of people more than we may know. Maybe you'll get some emails and texts once this goes out, but I think it's so important to put our story out there and inspire people. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, since the release of this episode, Wayne's father has unfortunately passed away. I think it's important to put what we heard into the context and the spirit of this podcast and what it's all about, which is being genuine, being vulnerable with our struggles, and hopefully that story has inspired a lot of people listening who may be going through the same thing. Wayne will be back to give further context into everything that's happened, but it's important for us to be respectful during this time. God bless.